unless they were an OBS instructor at a college. So we tried the easier StreamYard, which has easier invites and things like that. But I'm the only one with cams, so I'm the only one that can hear if someone tries to join us and talk to us.
Gotcha.
And so we have the two things here. We have
like a topic you're trying to follow, like we haven't
So
really
everything-
started anything yet.
Yeah, we want to talk about intentional communities. We want to talk about growing food. We want to talk about the marriage
Besides, there's
between
humongous mushrooms downstairs.
giant mushrooms.
Right.
We want to talk about giant mushrooms, foods, foraging, and
You-
the marriage
you
of
have
the
a
Hex
dinner?
community with the self-sufficiency community.
Right.
Is what we're all about.
Do you have an internet name so we don't dox you?
Yeah, we don't want to
Like,
dox you. We don't want to.
I'm Nico.
We don't want to use your legal name of Bartholomew Smith because then they can. You're gonna
That
get
makes
swatted
sense. That makes sense.
at 226 Elm.
I'm just Nico.
Bartholomew
Two-
is not happy.
226 Elm, Chicago, Illinois. We're not going to say that
Right.
because we value your privacy. Here we go. Look at this. Add to stream. Look at this.
Oh, we got
Hex
you.
Dragon.
Hex Dragon, he just walked away.
Dude, he's like, he gave
dropped.
up on us.
He was waiting for so long. And then,
Hex
No.
Dragon. Dude,
Hey,
dude, we can see you. We're actually streaming with another
Miracle.
human being.
We have
This only
content.
took an hour and a half.
We have content.
How's your video though? Is it
Can you hear us?
Gavin?
Can you
Or,
hear all of
yeah.
us or just me?
Eco?
Are you able to see more than just me?
You can only see
Can you hear us?
you. Yes, I can hear you.
Oh my.
Here, let's try this. Watch this. Boom.
Ooh,
There we
yeah,
go.
That's good.
Now we got all four of us on screen. You're a little bit smaller,
And you got
which
four
is
viewers.
unfortunate because you are
delay here.
you are better looking than the three of us combined. And so you should actually get the bigger square.
So I like that discussion you were starting about intentional communities.
Intentional communities, right?
Nico, how we were kind of talking about that. Let's
Right.
Get that going.
Right. So this is what we're envisioning for Hex food growers, the community. We would like to find people like ourselves in the Hex community that have the time and resources to put together our own intentional community, but at the same time learn from all the other intentional communities, learn from all their mistakes and successes. And I think he paused or he froze, but we'll just keep talking.
So a friend of mine, it's his birthday tomorrow or the next day, and he's out at a lake right now. And I'm sending him the stuff via Facebook, and there should be a group of them right now out at the lake in my hometown, Georgetown, Texas, Lake
Mhm.
Georgetown.
Sweet.
What's up, Georgetown?
Shout out
If-
to Georgetown.
Yeah.
If you're watching the stream, if you could comment anything to let us know that the comments work, that would be
Complete.
awesome.
We're complete virgins, amateurs.
So I like what EcoBuild had put on the Hex Food Growers Telegram channel on the kind of the points of what the community is looking for. First was a learning farm or a workshop to bring in the community, teach them a place for doing that. What are some of the locations that are friendly, government, freedom, things like that? That's number 2. Number 3 was doing the tours of the different communities of what can we learn from them? What can we apply from what they've been doing that we've learned into the community that we want to build, or the multiple communities that we want to build? And then didn't we add a few to that, to those numbers?
First of all, a friend of mine just told me no comments
Are showing up.
enabled. Are you allowing us or people from the public
We got 2. Taylor
to
commented.
comment? Well, that's only me and this everybody in this house basically.
Guest see viewer
I'll
comments.
jump
Guest will see all the
Right.
camera screen,
So if you
audio,
go- it's hard
camera,
to find
general.
those.
So general, here we go. I'm not seeing anything to enable the comments on here.
Okay, so maybe he's wrong and maybe he's talking about something else.
And then search.
Or maybe he's watching an older one. But probably, here we go. There's private chat. Here's public chat. Right? Comments.
So some other things that we were thinking about
so that
were
was- that's on his
worldwide
channel.
tour,
And I got the same thing.
and now we're down to
And I can't
one
find
viewer.
X-Ray Visions channel.
And
But if
so
you go
worldwide
to-
tour, one person was talking about Tamara.org, which I'm not familiar with, and then Sepp Holster's place, who is a Austrian farmer who has
There it is.
often been against the norm, and
Subscribe to his channel.
he says he's watching us live. My friend Travis in G-Town.
And Hex Dragon is back, so we're trying to add him to the stream. It's kind of funny that you mentioned that
Was
because
he in and out?
yeah, he was gone that whole time, and now he's trying to join us, but
Okay.
we'll see if he comes back. But it's interesting because when Aaron and I first started talking about doing like a road trip
Yeah.
and checking out intentional communities, which one of the places I've been looking at is ic.org. Is that right?
Might keep stopping.
So there's a website of intentional communities, which I think is ic.org.
I think that's right.
And it looks a lot like a weird dating apps because you can put up a bunch of ads for a community that you're building and say, hey, this is what our community is about. This is what we accept. This is what we don't accept. Or vice versa. You say, I want to join a community and this is what I'm looking for in a community to join.
They're matching people.
Yeah.
So, like a dating app.
And so the first we thought about day trips and maybe a weekend trip. But like you said, that once you get the money that you get from Hex, well, then you got the world tour. Then you can go visit the Sepp Holzers and all the Aussies. Paul Wheaton, all the way up in the land of Montana and Wyoming. No, I honestly, like I said, at first I was just doing day trips. Like tomorrow, we're going to be taking a trip up to Delta, right? And visiting an intentional community, a co-op, if you will. And that is going to, they farm hemp up there is their main export is hemp.
I don't think that's their main one. They're testing it out. So
Okay, so they're testing hemp.
Yeah. Their main thing is creating a community where the co-op buys a share into the co-op, and that share gives you land. And then you live there, and your job is whatever you want it to be. So maybe you are the one that's growing the chickens and the poultry, and another person is the hemp farmer. They do have community garden areas where they're doing testing and bringing in, doing all kinds of stuff. So I don't think that's their main crop, but their main thing is intentional community. And I think we're going to learn more when we go. We ought to bring some of the cameras, record some of it, and see what it's like, and see what it really is.
My friend tells me that you're pulling a Wales only. Your fan's too loud.
No way. Okay, we're going to kill the fan. We're going to sweat. We will suffer for this. We will suffer for our audience of two. One of them being me.
It means your mic's too good.
It's too good of a mic. Maybe we should turn on the gain, but I'm afraid that it won't pick up us.
But Wales
So like you were
only
saying-
is the fan from the computer, right?
I
This
think
is an actual
his is from his
air conditioning
computer.
fan.
But like you're saying, so that you've had some experience at the OSR. Another guest in the studio, he's had a couple of experiences with some intentional communities. I think the one was Peonia in Colorado, and that one's a matriarchal kind of dictatorship.
Yeah, it's like a
Hope they don't hear this and get offended by that, but
They're watching right now.
there's a family full of females that are running the farm out in Peonia.
Never mind, it was their fans. You can turn your fan back on.
All right, fans, coming back on. Hey, you know what?
'Cause
I'm
we
actually
need
going to crank it
It
a little
goes from
bit.
here to the computer over there. Can we can we show off your box there with you? No. Let's-
Well, that's
Yeah,
a little.
Switch
I don't
think
know
that'd be
why.
really
I don't know
cool
why you
if you had a
phrased it that
small-
way.
Switch this to this camera.
No. Wait.
I can switch the
got
camera.
a small camping mirror,
Mhm.
and all we have to do is just go like, look at that. Isn't that cool? And that's it.
If you want, yeah.
right?
Or we
Yeah.
can turn on that
I'll
one
do that
and
later.
switch cameras.
Let's do it.
I'll do that later.
Let's see how hard it is to switch cameras.
It's not too hard. You just pick the other one like this. Boom.
What happened to Dragon?
I don't know what happened to Dragon, but
Look at that logo. Isn't that cool? It actually shows up really well with your human eyes. But with your Android eyes, it doesn't work very well.
yeah.
So
Take a 4K picture of that and then post it.
I'm not sure how to
It is
do
pretty
that.
sweet. Just using the Sony, it'd be off. the stream.
There we go.
First time you
Right here.
saw 4K, what did you think?
There we go. Not your fans. Yours are fine. So hey, chats are enabled. So tooth sabers slash. Thank you very much for commenting and letting us know that
Are you a part of the
chat's working.
Are you a part of the food growers group?
Yeah, are you on the
Hex?
food growers group or are you just on Twitter?
T.me/Hex Food Growers, no spaces. Wow, I just felt like I was mocking Richard.
T.enemy Hex
T.me/
food Hex food growers. I think
because
that
we're permaculturists here.
I'm looking at the group now of the Hex food growers, and right now we're sitting
Hashtag
at
taking over crypto.
dude. We're sitting at 26 members.
There's our photos.
There's our photos from today. If you go on to t.me/Hex food growers,
We had some questions on some.
you'll see us some of the cool mushrooms we were able to forage here up in the mountains.
Yeah.
And like I
Are
said,
you sharing the screen? What's
no,
going on?
not at all. This is
Oh.
just me. I was trying to see how many members were in the food growers.
And I'm thinking maybe that's.
And
just
so,
what
like I said, I see a day when
'cause they
the
said that
food
to me
growers
first.
group
No,
gets a
and I
lot
thought,
bigger.
maybe I should-
Into the fact, I think we're going to see a day where we have offshoots of Hex food growers. I think you're going to have Hex food growers, then you're going to have Hex food growers energy, Hex food growers organics, Hex food growers international. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of
Or Hex food growers structure builders. So people that are focusing on Wafadis and earthships and things like that, you know. And then maybe even split up into the different regions of the country and then having their own meetups, because I would love to. Every meetup I've been to, this has been amazing.
What if you had these little what if we had our little avatar and then we had these power bars, and then those are the groups that you're talking about, and then so you go to the guru in each of those groups in order to get your power bar growth.
almost like badges or MTFs,
Yeah.
NFTs.
Well, that's what I'm thinking whenever you say that, rather than like having it to where it's locally coordinated and it just starts to be just anonymous and like you had to be there to find out, sort of thing.
But all these are workshops, right? So even though you're breaking them out by specialty, they could still be under the same umbrella. Hex food growers.
Everything goes back to workshops.
I would really
I
like
love
to
the
have
workshop.
workshops on my land where people came and did stuff for me, but I would rather party and go to a festival
And attend other people's workshops.
and attend their workshops. Maybe attend their workshop. It's like I said, workshops are great for people that want to learn, and don't get me wrong, there's a real big social aspect to the workshops as well.
But also, if we have skills and passions about certain things, we then can step into the teacher role and do a workshop for those who want to learn. They're entering in a hex workshop, earth and ovens. Earth
Oh,
and house.
I think we've got Hex Dragon back. Let me see if I can get him in here.
Shout out to Melanie and Travis who are out at the lake. I really appreciate you for coming by and posting a comment and giving us feedback. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. And
they're
Hex
moving
Dragon
on.
is back. I've got you on the screen. Can you hear us? Can you speak? Where did you go? Are you
Yeah.
okay? We were very
You guys
so
are
worried about you. So we were just discussing.
but I'm here.
Oh, good. And there's a delay too, so I'm going to have to learn how to pause after I ask a question or after I respond, because I'm the only one that can hear you. So if you ask a question, everyone on stream can hear it and hear you. But if you want their input, then I can reach out to them and let them answer you. Does that make sense?
See you, man.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, great. So we were trying to discuss the purpose of the Hex Food Growers group, where we see it going, who we see joining our group. Like I said, we got 26 people in our Telegram channel right now, but I think we're just barely scratching the surface, because people that are interested in freedom in one aspect of their life are almost always interested in freedom in almost all aspects of their life, which involves, food, energy, housing, and the people that you spend time with, your community. And so we were just talking about specifically the intentional community aspect of it. So
that's real
do you-
cool that you guys bring all that up.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'll share for a moment. So I've been on this path for about a decade for creating regenerative communities. And I actually had a really cool project that was around Pulse. You can look it up really quick if you want. It's called regencrypto.com, REGENCRYPTO. And what we did is we used the Pulse sacrifice as a way for us to raise funds for creating regenerative communities. So yeah, I've been a community leader in developing these for about a decade. And I think you guys will really dig what I put together. I have a lot to contribute in that regard, but I would love to hear what y'all's visions are as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty interested in what you were saying about using cryptocurrency to fund these intentional communities, because excuse me, that's one of the biggest problems I found in a lot of the prepper communities, the permaculture communities, is they're kind of killing themselves to maybe make money at a farmer's market, maybe be the main supplier of a really nice restaurant, or just hoping to have some donors and some founders that have enough money to keep their ideals going. But if you look at the budget of even a small city, there's millions and millions of dollars keeping a small city running or a small town running. And when human beings take that upon themselves, I mean, that it seems to be a huge problem or a huge barrier to a lot of intentional communities. So how is that working with you guys? I mean, as far as your experiment with that.
Right, excellent question. So what we're doing right now is the first intention is to have a regenerative foundation and then creating a sustainable community. So a lot of times communities come together around ideas, but they don't have the skills, they don't have the resources to be successful. So if you don't have a regenerative foundation, you're bound to fail. So what I help put together is basically these long-term permaculture models that start out very inexpensively. So Hex is so amazing in that basically you can imagine we all just got these seeds, and the seed is growing, gaining value. And we want to hold it as long as we can because it keeps appreciating in value. Well, that's how trees work also. So we just need to have a way to have delayed gratification for the food forests that we produce, for the animals that have exponentially grow, all of that. And we have to get into an abundance mindset. So I'm not a fan of the communities that are trying to make money by producing food, by trying to sell everything that they create. That's creating jobs for yourselves. I think we have to shift it towards what lifestyle do we want to live? And when you understand that, I want to have all organic, regeneratively grown food produced locally. I want to have my house built out of materials that are either from the earth or from trees that we've grown. If you look at the princess tree, it's a tree that matures in like 3 to 5 years that you can harvest for timber. So all these things have like a 3 to 7 year plan that you can then create resource abundance. So if we get out of this mindset of, well, we need to have money to be a community, but you focus on what resources you need, you can start creating a system that's going to produce an abundant amount of resources. And I think that a cryptocurrency like Hex, that you can live off that interest, can fill in the gaps, especially in the beginning. So right now, where we are is we aren't living in community. Most of us, I'm actually on one right now, but most of my founders are not in community yet. We're waiting for their fund to mature enough that they can afford to live in a transitionary lifestyle while the abundance is being created. But long term, our vision is not to live as paupers, but rather to have all the resources we need as well as a lot of free time. So yeah, so I helped create that system, and I'm sure you have a couple questions, so I'll hand it to you for a moment.
No, you were. I love what you were saying because I relate to a lot of that, dealing with a lot of things because permaculture and a lot of its tenets have to do with abundance, and so they're like, look, there's plenty of food, there's plenty of land, there's plenty of water. You know, if you just cooperate with a handful of people that you can get along with, then you can meet all the needs of the community or whatever needs or wants that you have. And so it is funny because a lot of places, like you said, they create for themselves a job, which takes away their money, takes away their time, and adds a level of stress to the community. And so they're almost introducing the worst parts of money, the scarcity, into their community. And it's like it's the wrong direction, I think. Not ever having actually lived in an intentional community, but just studying them from an outsider point of view.
Sorry, I didn't hear the very last bit you said. I have scarcity of internet where I am, so I have to like position my phone just right to have a good connection.
I appreciate it. It's great to have someone to talk to and to see Leroy C4 in the comments. It's great. It's great. Appreciate anyone who's putting up with this low quality production and us trying to figure things out as we go on the air. So,
how many intentional communities do you know about in your area? And how many people are there at your intentional community?
I live in Austin, Texas, so there's quite a few, and there's varying shades of gray for what type of community would call them. Now, out of everywhere I've lived, I found that Austin does have some of the best people for community, which has kept me here the longest. I was traveling, living in different communities, learning about what makes them successful, why so many have failed, and trying to learn from their mistakes before creating our own. And actually, the farm I'm on right now, it's not my community. It's what I'm helping get established while waiting for our fund to mature. And I'm very interested in helping to co-create a HEX community. I think we have some really interesting opportunities with the amount of wealth that we have for setting up something that can create long-term abundance. And a topic that I was just in the Discord syndicate listening to them about all the regulations coming down on crypto is that we need to, while we have our abundance, we need to create systems of abundance that can provide for us no matter what happens to the monetary system or the crypto systems that exist. I do believe that we have a really good opportunity right now for doing group buys, collectively buying land, collectively creating large paddock systems that have food forests in them for moving our animals through and creating a system that can take care of us through whatever craziness happens. But coming back to your question, I have not seen any communities doing what I think we want to do in the Austin area. There are more people who are absolutely plugged into the system, and they might have some varying levels of producing their own food or energy or other things, but for the most part, it's very weak.
all right. Yeah, that's really interesting that we both had the idea of trying to study other communities before we started our own. Because, I mean, I'm sure the brave and the more adventurous people would jump out and start their own community and just fix it as they go, like we're doing with the stream. But, you know, that's a big investment in land and people, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely dove into creating my own and failed hard, had some good successes. And yeah, it's just, the thing is that the system that's in place right now has done such a good job at keeping people in their place. you look at the most intelligent people you know, they cannot survive on their own. Like there are so few, nobody knows how to grow food. Nobody knows how to build a house. Like nobody has these skills that we need to just meet our basic needs. They're so dependent on the system, and we have created such a stigma around food growing, around being able to build your own house, around making your own stuff. Like it's looked down upon, and I think it's because there's so much fear into accepting that people really just don't know how to do it, and it's easier to say, oh, I could never do that, like I'm above that, instead of I couldn't do that because I don't know how. And I guess the last thing I'll say on that is that I think embracing the I don't know what I don't know, and there's a lot I don't know, but I want to learn, is really important. And I want to be around those kinds of people who are really excited about learning and trying new things. And that is what I see a lot with crypto, especially in the Hex communities. There's a lot of acknowledgement that we don't know everything, and we're figuring it out as we go, and we're doing it with an abundance mindset. We're teaching each other as we go instead of hoarding the information and trying to one up everybody else. We're actually being really cooperative. So I have a lot of hope for people who have that mindset working together.
Right. What do you call that? Synergy?
Yes.
Where 1 and 1 equals 5 or more instead of 2.
I love it how like humans, they want to get active, they just don't know what the heck to do. And so this is a part of our Back to the Land movement. And this is our energy. This is our understanding of the next level of, or the next way of communicating an energy forward. Cryptocurrencies. I like the idea of the workshops, but also it's like let's somehow like integrate this energy connection into the urban areas. And Austin has farms right on the edge of them of their urban areas. That's a great case study and work example. You've got a lot of friends over there who are Hexicans and who are just as passionate as you are, right? I mean, they would be like right there at your shoulder if you ask them to be, right?
Exactly. We just need to have a safe place to really get started. And that's, again, what the land trust that we've created is for. And it's another thing I'll notice in communities is there's a lot of instability with leadership. So what will happen is that you have a landowner, people come there, they invest years of their lives, and they get kicked off. They just change their mind, they sell the property, they have psychosis, whatever. So the land trust we're using a land trust model because that way nobody owns the land. We're all guaranteed long-term access to it. And we have a set of agreements so that if you're a founder, you get to create what agreements you want for your community, and you can remove people that way based on those agreements. But if you, as the founder, are out of integrity with the agreements that you created with your community, the land trust can step in and be like, actually, no, you either got to come back in integrity or you lose your lease to the land. So it becomes a way to protect all community members as well as to protect the founders from that. And I want to hit on, what's the guy with the beard? What's your name?
Well, over here or over here?
Okay,
This is Rogue Herbalist right here.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, what's going on?
Guy Hey, so you had a really good point. And this is something else that we address, which is like training. So if you read through the website, what we're offering is if you're a founder and you don't know what you're doing, you just have a bunch of land, but you don't know what you're doing. The land trust will come in and will steward 90% of the land. So say 100 acres, they'll steward 90 acres plus 3 acres for a training center. That training center is where people come in, they learn how to do restoration agriculture. They get to manage the entire food system, and with a cooperative model, there'll be food processing so that they can actually make a positive income. Communities try and do too many things. And it's better to just let them focus on like one thing that they're really passionate about, like having that one purpose, than having a more organized professional organization step in, do the processing, do the training, do all that kind of stuff. And the long-term vision for the land trust is we're only spending 10% of the fund every year. So if you imagine our fund grows up to 20 million next year, we spend 2 million. Then it goes up to like 50 million. Then we spend 5 million. So we only take out 10% of the current value for buying more land to eventually create a network around the world of these regenerative projects. And each one of them will have areas that they specialize in. The communities will be different types of models because we can live all different ways. And you have training centers on these for people who are just getting into it. So you have a workforce, you have a way to transition people into it. It's not like they're also getting indoctrinated into a community at the same time. It's separate. You're learning how to just live in a regenerative system, and then you can choose which kind of community you want to be a part of. So it's a way to slowly integrate people into community while letting them acquire the skills and setting up everybody for success instead of continuing with the current method, which really results in like a 90% rate of failure.
Yeah, I like that formula and that idea. Shout out to Reggie Bone in the chat. Shout out to Truth Saber Slash says I can build anything and teach. And then Leroy says you got to find one thing you're good at, and you can trade for this stuff in your community. I can make hot sauce and brew alcohol. So he's bringing the hot sauce and the alcohol to the community.
Sounds like a party.
And Truth Saber Slash says that's what leadership is all about. But I agree with that. So Eco Builder here, he's been able to go up to what's Paula Wheaton's place?
Wheaton Laboratories.
Wheaton Laboratories. And Paul has quite a strong personality and a lot of leadership, and he has a vision. But at the same time, like you were saying, Hex Dragon, when you marry that in with an actual structure and plan and transition period, now you've got something that you can work with that's not going to fall apart based on one leader or based on the emotions and feelings of a group of people that have this romantic idea of going and living on the land and living that simple, wonderful life. And then they show up and 2 winters into it, it's cold and things didn't work out the way they are. And now they're fighting and it's muddy and they just ditch the land to go back to the regular 9-to-5s in their suburbs. Right.
Right. And another thing that we need to shift away from, because again, a lot of the perspective is like farming, like, oh, we have to operate these tractors, plant the fields, harvest the fields, till the fields, all this kind of stuff. It's old paradigm. And when we shift to new paradigm, it's like we're planting forests that produce food abundance. And again, it's a long transition period. So if we had a group of us come together now, we only need a handful of us to go out in the fall and the spring and plant trees. And we can walk away for the rest of the time, go back to our lives, and come back a year later, check on things, add a little bit more. Then maybe integrate some animals in there. And we can slowly start scaling up. And doing it that way, we're minimizing the long-term work we're doing and creating that abundance. But again, that kind of model requires a lot of patience, and it's multi-generational thinking. So instead of this instant gratification where we plant a crop and we get food immediately, we need to plan for like a decade or many decades, which is also why not having a family or a person own it is so important, because what's going to happen when they get old and die? Are they going to pass it on to their kids who didn't even live in the community? Like that entire community gets uprooted again. So really thinking like for a century or multiple centuries. And I would encourage all of us to do that. Let's say that the SENS technology comes through. We're going to live to be 600 years old. Well, we got a lot of Earth to repair if we're going to live on Earth for 600 more years. So let's start making a plan in which we can all be in abundance together for half a millennium.
Yeah, and that's really the struggle, right? Is like, do you have centralized leadership so you can make important decisions, or do you try to work something like long term, like you were saying, where you guys are all agreeing to the same tenets of the trust and these rules long term, so that it's not because I mean I've watched some documentaries on intentional communities where they have their little town meetings and there's 45 very opinionated, very emotional people there, all trying to figure out what to do on one small sect of their intentional community, whether it be like sharing a car or something like that. And it's like this is never going to get done. We do have a comment from Leroy C4. He says plant trees, harvest beavers equals beaver pants.
I'd like to learn more about these beaver pants that everyone knows about.
Yeah, this is these beaver dams
I'd like
that
to
can
know,
be seen via satellite in Canada, probably 40 years old. So Leroy's going after the beaver
I'd like to know
harvest.
if he also knows how to grow the tomatoes that he's making salsa with.
Yeah, the hot sauce, right? Yeah, so Leroy, we want to know, where are you getting your tomatoes from?
I mean,
We know where the beavers are coming from. We need to know where the tomatoes come from. So
Well,
yeah, that
I
is
think another thing
that's
that's
the balance,
important.
right?
This is why.
What are your thoughts about transportation?
Yeah. So I'm gonna
No.
make one comment, then I'll move
I'm
to
on a
that.
delay.
So
I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is all delayed.
I understand. Same here. So for what I envision helping to create is a network of diverse communities. So when you come in and you're a part of like the training center first, like you're living on somebody else's community by their rules. You're learning what you like and didn't like about it. And then you get to leave when we basically fork the community, changing what we want to see happen in the next community. And that frees up space in the previous one for new people to come in, get exposed to one way of doing things, and then maybe go into a different community, getting exposed to another way of doing things, and figure out what you want. Because we don't really know what we want until we have it, and that's often we find out what we don't actually want. So I thought I had all these brilliant ideas when I was creating communities in the past, and some of the ideas were really great, and some just weren't practical. So having a safe space to try it out is really important, and that's why traveling is so important. Like if you haven't left your city or your country, if you don't know how the world works, you're pretty ignorant. Well, it's the same with how we live in communities. So studying was great, but until you live in a few, you don't understand how and why things work certain ways. And then we can really dive deep into getting to like human levels of consciousness and understanding how to upgrade people's consciousness and how that changes the perspective of reality and their ability to communicate with other people. And that's a topic I'm pretty passionate about, but I won't go into that right now. But yeah, transportation. So I'm a huge fan of walking. I think our feet are amazing. And designing a community that's walkable is really important. We don't need to drive everywhere. Bicycling is really great also. However, I would love to geek out with y'all on some of these like futuristic cities that we could create. I used to work with the Venus Project and worked with Aravana. I lived and worked at Arcosanti, which are all prototypes for future cities. And really cool stories there. But for the most part, there was no ownership of vehicles. It was walking everywhere, or there was a public transportation system in place like PRTs. But yeah, I think we need to run more. This idea of like not running from when you're kids is pretty ludicrous. So we can just run around. We'll be pretty healthy. And that's what I did love about Arcosanti is I actually had to climb up a mesa every day to go to work. It was about a half-hour hike, and everybody there was hot. Like we all had phenomenal bodies. So if we can live in a community that makes us healthy, it's going to be good for everybody.
Yeah, we got another break here with Leroy C4. He's envisioning beaver banana hammocks. So if you can picture that style, an entire clothing line is going to be born out of this. And then Truth Saber Slash says canning will be an important part of sustainable food sources, because obviously unless you live somewhere with a growing season and year round, and you're really, really good at always having something to eat and always wanting to eat what's in season, which let's face it, no one wants to eat only what's in season, then there's that.
I'd like to know exactly what you said about public transportation. You said something and it went right over my head.
Oh, PRTs. It's a personal rapid transport. They are automated, basically. They can get you anywhere in the city safely. Some of the smart driving vehicles, they're usually at tracks, and you can just press a button as a kid, and you can get taken to wherever you need to go. So they have them like Europe, I think Dubai has them. They're way more affordable than actually having infrastructure for cars, and safer. And yeah, we could
Yeah,
actually
you're
build one
breaking
on
up
the table.
a little
So-
bit. Hex Dragon, let's see if you can repeat that a little bit more about the vehicles, and hopefully get a little bit better audio for the people that were wanted to hear about these vehicles.
Well, I heard it was an automated transportation vehicle, which you buy predetermined tickets for. Right?
Is that what you were saying? Because
Not
maybe it's just
exactly.
breaking up on live stream, and maybe it's coming in clearer on the delay.
I really do have really bad connection, so it's probably both. So personal rapid transport is an idea that's been around for a long time. And what that means is basically it's like a rail system, or a roller coaster kind of, that goes through your city. So pretty low tech and very safe. So children can use them. So in a community, you wouldn't have to have even tickets. It could just be like you step on and then like you press the button for where you want to go and it takes you there. So it's very inexpensive. You're talking like hundreds of dollars per vehicle potentially, with like being able to be run with an Adreno, because it's track based. So they are actually very practical for small communities or cities. And the infrastructure is much less because you can run it on a narrow track instead of having to build roads.
Mm-hmm. And can you explain to people what an Adreno is for people that don't know what that is?
It's an open source computer chip or basically it's like an open source computer, under $100, and you can 3D print the case if you want. You don't need a case, but yeah, just really inexpensive hardware.
Leroy C4 says we can probably get more people interested in canning if we make the food look like chicken nuggets. So he's bringing the practicality back to the stream for us.
So I'm really interested in automated transportation to where we can have it to where more things are drone-like. So I can send a delivery without somebody overseeing the product on its way. And I can imagine, sending resources from one side of the community to another side of the community and not wasting time.
I mean, I think a really good question is laying out like some context for how large of a community you envision being a part of. Because if we're talking like 20 people, it might not be worth the time to build all the autonomous robots to move our stuff around when it's only going like 200 feet away. But if you're talking like thousands of people or hundreds of thousands, then yeah, it definitely starts making a lot of sense at scale. I think you would really enjoy learning about arcology, ARCOLOGY. It's a concept that Paulo Soleri popularized. And Jacques Fresco also has some really good ideas for creating, basically what he used instead of drones was what's it called? Pneumatic tubes. So when you go to your bank, how you put these little tubes in and they go where you want them to go? Well, that technology works really well, and you can send things everywhere very fast and very cheaply with that. without worrying about a robot running into a kid's head or anything like that.
I have a quick question, and I'd like everyone's input on this. How big of a intentional community do you think you can get with current technology, where people will more likely get along, just on a personal level, where you can work out things with your neighbor, with your community?
So if you're familiar with Dunbar's number, there's a couple. What's interesting with it is actually it's like it kind of looks like a hex chart. So a hex price chart is, it goes up and it tops at like around like breakdown starts happening like around 12 people, and then like it goes down like up again to about 60 people, and then goes down again, and then like resonates again at around like 180 people or so. And there's multiple points at which different things start happening. So depending on what you kind of community experience you want to have, it would give you different answers. For example, if we're making like totally cooperative, egalitarian, all working together and stuff, you might only want to have 6 to 12 people. Or maybe you want to have like about 60 people, where it's more decentralized, or you have like a hierarchy, a few people making decisions for the majority of people. You start having representatives, or you go larger, you have more representation happening. Or you can go to a more decentralized system. So it's really complicated, but the benefits you get as you go larger are you have more people that you can find meaningful experiences with, such as yoga. Not everybody's into yoga. So if you have 1,000 people there, you're going to probably find a couple dozen people who are really into yoga and special interests. So as you get more people, you can have more niches that I think gives people some of that quality of life that they really want, but you have different challenges. So again, you need context to better answer that question, because I would say Austin works okay. We have about 1 million people here, and we have a ton of really cool stuff to do, and there's all these niche communities around. At the same time, it's utterly failing in how it uses its resources and takes care of people at the bottom and the inequality and all that.
Cool. Devin, what do you think as far as community size and how that affects the way things run?
Are we talking about the size?
Yeah, size.
Yeah, I think there's. I don't know. I guess I just haven't had enough study. I think he's right about 180 people. Sort of finds this level of max capacity for human interaction one-to-one. Because currently, I think politics is just absolutely pathetic. People lead themselves to believing that other people care about them and represent them when it's absolutely not that way. I don't know. Please.
I think Hex Dragon's right on. There needs to be some understanding of context to what we're talking about. Are we talking about land bearing? How much can the land take with a populace on it? How much per person per acre? How much animal? How many whatever on the land that we're talking about? That's an important data points. But there's also an understanding of how many people can we get in a community where we know each other. And there is a data point somewhere where they say over a certain amount, and I don't know if it's 800, 1,000, that you just don't know who your neighbor
I
is.
think that he was referring to that the Dunbar number, which is how many people could you actually remember the name of and face of. And
Yeah,
is that right? That's the Dunbar number.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some anecdotal things about somebody going into, if you go into your small town neighborhood, somebody knows you're in town and that you're here, and they know your business. But if you get above that Dunbar number, that threshold, and so in the idea of a community, am I backtracking on some of that? I don't know. I have a delay in my audio too, so some of the things that I'm listening to.
You're in the same conversation we're in right now. Leroy in the comments says it depends on where you're located. He's talking like Aaron was, like, what can the land support? So he's in the high desert, which is, there's not a lot of vegetation and things like that without putting in a lot of work in permaculture and systems to increase the production of the high desert, just right off the bat.
So I do want to say that there is this book called Small is Beautiful, and Economics as If People Mattered is the subtitle, and it talks about doing what you can while you can with what you have, just getting busy, and if everybody was able to do this sort of thing, then we would, and we could think well, we would naturally get into a path of producing for each other. But something that after I read that book, I started realizing that our state boundary lines are inappropriate. Instead, appropriate boundaries would be based on resources and based on ecology in the area, because here you are, like, maybe mining something in one place, the wind blows the toxicities over to the community next to you, and then they have to have the detriment of your stuff. Or you're upstream, you put something in the stream, you're disconnected from what happens downstream, where there's an even larger community that now has a poison stream or something. So I think that we should be analyzing our ecological zones a lot better, and maybe even redrawing our state lines, as we are combing through our English law going forward.
Some of that goes back to the initial discussion we had about this is a system of dependency we're in right now. A lot of the boundaries and lines were developed over a certain amount of time based off of the idea of, like you're saying, Old English law, but also the state idea of what they need to set in controls and where these boundaries need to be, not based off of any ecological system. And that idea of a system of dependency, yeah, there are good things about borders. I'm not an open border guy, but where do these borders make sense? Where are natural things? Where does it make sense to have a river that protrudes a lake, water sources? And there'd be less arguments and fights over water systems. But jumping back to that state of dependency, we do need to look at these intentional communities as it does need to be a mindset change. What are we doing to step away from the idea of a municipality that tells us what to do, controls us, gives us our Costco, gives us our industries, and step away from that and look at that in the bigger picture of this intentional community idea. So that's I guess that jumps into a whole different topic.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really interesting, the idea of changing the borders, because as a truck driver, I've often thought would make more sense for states to be carved into the interstates or to roadways and railroads and rivers than it made sense of, the squares that ended up on the map, right? And so, but the roads themselves are connecting different resources, both economic and political power, and business. Where does a business want or need a road going from and to? And so that's really interesting that I've thought kind of the same thing. Even though roads are man-made, it still opens up that idea.
Our idea of a state,
what makes more sense.
The world's idea of a state is different than what we think of states. A state is a sovereign nation in other parts of the world. But a state, what we think, is the original 13 colonies created into a state, and then the United States is our sovereign colony or sovereign state. And that's kind of divided up into multiple ideas of various groups that want to have their own constitution, which makes it safe in the sense that, hey, if California is really oppressive, you can leave that state and go to another geographical boundary that has different laws and can govern within that boundary. And so in that sense, I guess that's good in order to move around to flee oppression. But where maybe Hex or Eco Build, you're talking about resource allocation within a boundary. Where does that make sense? And then how
Because-
do you apply that into an intentional
Because that
community?
directly relates to economy, which directly relates to energy, which directly relates to the health of the humans, and what is more important than the humans living upon it.
Right. Leroy in the chat brings up aquaponics working to increase food and veg and meat production.
And jumping back to Leroy's beaver comment, even though it was funny, there is a truth about that when you look at that. What's that case study of introducing the wolves back into, was it Montana or somewhere?
It might have been Yellowstone.
Yosemite.
Introduced the wolves
And
back in,
Yosemite.
it totally
It was
changed.
Yosemite.
Yeah, Yosemite, and it totally changed the dynamics of that ecosystem because it bringing back a predator moved the elk out of grazing areas, which brought in the river back through, which started allowing forests to grow, and just that small change in that ecosystem made a big difference down the line. So, beavers, that's certainly funny with beaver pants, but it does make sense as it changes the things down the line.
Right. Well, and he mentioned it. For 40 years, you can see the satellite imagery of the same beaver dams being there.
Yeah.
So obviously that system is working for the beavers up there, and the water, or not. And then he brings up wolves back into Idaho. So they've been bringing the wolves back into Idaho as well. And we were talking about that today. Is you can tell how healthy a system is by the health of its top predators, because if you don't have any top predators in your ecosystem, then it's probably not natural. It's probably not healthy all the way down to the soil.
You
What do
could
you
also
say,
make the
Jack?
opposite argument. You can tell how healthy a system is by looking at its soil first.
Right.
But yeah, I think y'all made some really solid points. And as far as like governance and stuff and cities and all that, one thing I think that we're moving towards is like the new paradigm, teal organizations, or rather purpose-driven organizations. So when you mentioned the idea of what goes downstream and how that affects other communities, that's really important. So I coach 4 values to people: happiness, health, success, and wealth for myself and others. So I won't do anything that will oppose those values for me or for anyone else. So if we all live that way, we can create abundance, and that's what living that way will do. Is it creates abundance for everybody. And yeah, so when your community can resonate around certain values, you can make decisions much easier. Right now, we still live in the old paradigm, or a lot of people do, which is laws. And laws go outdated. They get outdated really fast. They don't make sense, and they do a lot of harm. But values are timeless in the sense that as we get more information, more data, we discover what health is this year. We don't have to make a law around, okay, well, don't eat this, because then next year we'll find out, oh, actually, it was good for you. It's like, okay, well, our value is health. So whatever the information says, we'll do that's going to promote good health. And as that information changes, we just change how we use the information, how we behave. So a value decision method is something that help co-create. I have all this on my website, futuristplayground.org. It's a little outdated, but it's still got some cool content on there. But yeah, using values to make decisions can get rid of representatives, get rid of a lot of government also, and it makes us be more evidence-based or more scientific.
Go ahead. We got Dalvin.
Yeah, so because we are Hexicans, we have to acknowledge that Richard Hart's going live now.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'd call this a
So-
great stream, and
We're
I would
gonna-
like to jump on and watch him.
Yeah, jump on there. Thank you all so much for joining us and your input and helping us as we figure out how all this works. Thanks
Yeah.
you very much.
Yeah, let's do it again soon.
All right, cool.
Peace.
See ya. So a couple things
Very
real
soon,
quick.
very soon.
Couple things in chat here.
Hex taking over crypto. Take over crypto.
Yeah. Leroy says wolf pelts are going for $1,000, and he's a certified wolf trapper. So, and he's protecting the elk population from the wolves. So, yeah, it's a touchy subject when you talk about anything that touches government, like the laws, like he was saying, they're outdated very quickly, and you're not going to find a law out there regarding anything where someone doesn't have a personal a point of getting that law across. Like someone's out to get something from that law, and so it's usually at the benefit of one person or a group of people, and to take it away with the others.
So we need okay, so this was just the first ever live stream, right?
Yeah.
So we need an agenda, next time, and so that we can really flush out the certain subjects. Like I don't like it that we're just like, okay, later, dragon,
Sure.
we gotta do stuff. Richard's going live, so
Yeah.
Sort of recap, and then boom.
Okay.
I'm sorry to throw this at you.
No, you're fine. I think a good recap of this episode is that we do not understand how computers work. We don't.
And so do not rewind to the beginning of all this.
No. The last 5 minutes was pretty good.
Some,
But
some of the freestyle interview was pretty nice too, though. Just
yeah, it is
Right.
nice to have the just the conversation flow. But I think we wanted to really introduce ourselves, talk about the two communities of Hex being financial sovereignty and the food growing community. So I'm going to put this in the chat right here.
Go to
t.me/Hex Food Growers. Join us there, and join that conversation in that chat. And we'd really like to hope to bring you more information, because we are planning on going on some trips, and a road trip, if you will, and seeing what we can learn from these other intentional communities, and then also maybe share what's been working in the Hex community, because we are a very strong community online. So yeah, I love the discussion. I love the different ideas, and the more people can learn about finding freedom in any area of their life is something I would love to promote and talk about and share and create content about.
and we got a shout out to Pulse Lord. He said, "What's up?"
What's up, Pulse Lord?
Yo, up.
I like your raps. I like your raps a lot. And so I'm not sure if Richard really is going live. We can see here if he is. I don't see him
Maybe
here.
bring up a new tab.
You can check it out. The easiest way to be looking on your phone. But yeah, we're just trying to figure out how to do live streams, how to reach out to other Hexkins, because it's going to be the easiest way to have these conversations and meetings outside of meetups. And as soon as we have some meetups that we're going to be doing personally and other meetups, I know that there's going to be the 369 conference in Vegas on March 6th through the 9th, which is going to be more of a scientific workshop kind of environment where people are really going to get into the nuts and bolts and math and game theory of Hex. And then also, obviously, it's Hexkins in Vegas, so we'll be having a good time too. But that's $369 right now if you go to Matty Allen's channel. And you can pre-order that. They're going to have 1,369 tickets available. They plan on renting some convention space and having a little more organizations than we did with the first Hex meetup. The first Hex meetup was a lot of fun, but we were trying to make sure we're trying to fit in wherever we showed up, which sometimes they had set up a place for us, and when we got there, it wasn't really there, at a couple of spots. So to have a place rented that's designated just for us to hang out and do our workshops and different
You're
events.
saying the technical problems whenever we were at the Vegas?
Yeah.
You were saying that? Okay.
Yeah.
What did I'm behind on times. $360?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So they've announced another Hex meetup
Yeah.
for March, February, March, April. Maybe it was April, March, or May. It was sometime in the spring. You can go to Matty Allen's channel, and it's $369 is your sacrificing for the ticket,
Okay.
and they're going to have 1,369 people there. But they want to focus more on the science aspect of Hex, like learning how it works, nuts, bolts, math, game theory going on there for 3 days. And they're hoping to have it more formal than it was at the first meetup. And then they're hoping to have another regular Hex meetup that's going to be festival style, party, hang out, go see and do things closer to June, July.
So what are they going to call the conference then?
That's a great
Because
question.
isn't the nuts and bolts the conference, and then the
Check
party
the
is
Telegram.
the
Does he have it in his
meetup?
Telegram channel?
Probably, if I just look
Tell
up,
me here.
I think he's professional enough to actually have a website, which is something I should probably have.
Dragon, I'm sorry we knocked you off.
You can come on to here you go. So here it is, the Hexton. So go to hexton.vegas meetup 2021. And this one is set at so the meetup, the party meetup. Actually, no, that was this year. I thought maybe you'd have a new one here, an update.
So Richard is going to go live in right now.
Okay, so Richard's
So,
going live
like-
on Omar Bam's channel.
He hasn't yet gone
On
live,
Cryptos.
but the ticker's gone all the way down.
Mhm.
And then also, if you're a whale and you're getting into Pulse Chain, your sacrifice is due within the hour. Why is that? Because you're competing for a multiplier. Otherwise, if you're people like my girlfriend, sacrifice tomorrow, that's the day.
What are we at right now for Hex? What's the price?
How much? What's the price of Hex right now? Price of Hex right now.
We've got 684 million on in
Total
the total sacrificed in the Ethereum chain. We've got 1 hour and 34 minutes and a few seconds till the ticker time's over for today.
Just jumping back to the Hex meetups.
Yeah, I'm jumping back. I'm actually going to Matty Allen's Twitter page right here.
What you're going to talk
And-
about is really cool with the big ones, but I think these organic small meetups are still pretty cool. Where
Yeah.
we're doing these small micro meetups in between these big large ones.
For sure.
So you're saying this is the updated one, the newest?
Yeah, this is his Twitter, and so it's first. Well, this is the first Hex conference that they had online, and but somewhere here he should have a tweet about it. We'll
So we're on Matty All Ins,
MATIALL.IN.
and he is a co-founder of the T-Share app. He is our Hexagon therapist, basically, who is a YouTube figurehead, and he is helping us with our sudden wealth syndrome because we're freaking out. Pinch me, I'm dreaming.
Yeah, it's a huge adjustment to go from working at a job and trying to keep up with the 9 to 5 and the conventional, and then one day you achieve financial freedom, and it's a huge adjustment mentally, physically, emotionally, and I think that it's great to have a community like Hex to support each other through that, and the information that he's been given on his live streams is awesome.
And they do television shows about that where somebody wins the lottery or they come into a inheritance.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows how they don't know what to do with it and they spend it on all kinds of stuff and then they're poor again. And so that's the sudden wealth syndrome is kind of interesting in people's lives.
Leroy is focused on the positive. He says we can only improve from here, boys. He also says got to pump some traffic to this channel.
I'll take
It
that.
definitely will be getting better and better, smoother, less technical difficulties. But we just wanted to go live. We wanted to touch base with the community tonight. I mean, there's so much going on right now. This is an insane time to start a channel, but on the other hand, there's no better time to start another channel and reach out to as many people as we can and have these conversations and grow the community. Because I mean, if you think the price of Hex is going to be exponential from here, wait till you see the community. Even the people on Twitter, you'll notice you'll have 10, 20 new people on Twitter a day that you've never seen before, just getting excited and pumped about Hex and Pulse Chain. So yeah, the price and the community are going to experience exponential growth this year. And we're here for the ride. We're here for the conversations. And like I said, we're passionate about freedom in all areas of our lives.
We could easily get more viewers if we just said hashtag Pulse Chain, but we didn't. I mean, like, people are just flowing straight to us because hashtag this is a crypto takeover.
What are the hashtags that Richard Hart likes? Is Bitcoin's going to crash, Ethereum to zero, and everybody loves those
right.
and jumps in and says, "Oh, I got to watch this."
Right. So anyone who is endured this first stream, and anyone who watches it in the future, hopefully will cut out a lot of the junk in the front. But I think there was some really cool stuff going on. I think there's a lot of great ideas, and
If
I like
if
the
you
tone.
dug into any of these ideas and got your feet warm underneath that blanket, then yeah, come on back.
Yeah.
And then also, of course, join us if you're an expert of any sort or have read any sort of book about intentional community, about structure of society, about resources, about permaculture, about growing things. I don't care if it's Mel Bartholomew's Square Foot Gardening. Did I get the author's name right?
I think so. It sounds correct to me. But yeah, if you're just trying to grow your first tomato, or if you think solar panels are cool, anything like that,
Or if you like
Solar panels?
beaver pants.
beaver pants, if you want to make a nice set of beaver banana hammocks to wear around the house, keep you warm in the summer, in the winter,
Beaver coin.
beaver coin. Yeah,
We got to get Leroy on as an interview.
Leroy is a very colorful, fun friend of mine, and I appreciate him showing up because yeah, he's a good dude.
So originally, the plan was for us to have joint live streams and go on and crash the effing hangout. And that didn't quite time out because Richard announces his thing. And you knew it was going to be a big night because of, this is the end of the fourth day to the end of
Right.
Pulse Chain. But what we want to do is we want to get everybody who wants to put their face out there, do it. Come together. Let's start dicing up ideas and let's create something awesome. Let's work together. And we don't have, this is all anarchy, right?
Yeah, it's all voluntarism. If you want to do something, great. If you don't, no one here is going to
No expectation on the work of others.
exactly. It's just whatever you want. Come here. I want to thank Rogue Herbalist and Eco Builder so much for coming down to my studio, hanging out. We had a great time, mushroom hunting and getting together and seeing each other in person. It's always awesome. I've never ever been disappointed by meeting a Hexagon in real life, and I don't think you will either.
Your studio's sweet. Loving it.
Sweet.
It's better.
Yeah. I just, like I said, once we iron out the technicalities, this will be a well-running machine.
So I'm from Texas, north of Austin, and I am just thrilled to meet these guys whenever it is that I went up to Vegas and then traveled north, and then they invite me to their houses. And these guys are both family men, and I'm completely impressed. So the quality of people that you'll find in the Hex community, and every time they open their mouths, they teach me something. So it's amazing. I'm thrilled.
Yeah, likewise. I think it's only going to get cooler from here on up because I see nothing but more choices and opportunities for everyone involved in Hex and Pulse Chain. You know, once you break the chains of the 9 to 5 and the obligatory work, even if you own a small business and you're running a small business, that's really like just working 3 jobs for most people I've seen with the running a small business. So if you can find some sort of financial freedom and then make these choices in your life, like what do I actually want to do with my time? And, you know, for me, it was build communities and share the gospel, the good word of Hex to as many people that'll take advantage. And if they can find freedom in one area of their life, then hopefully it'll spread to other areas and to their loved ones and their friends.
So if you're not yet a Hexagon, how do you become a Hexagon? You make a stake. You interact with the contract that we're talking about. And then once you do that, you'll start to live the life that we're living, and you'll start understanding what we're talking about. If it is that you're an outsider, come join us.
Yeah, and we'll have Leroy on stream sometime. We got to figure out this StreamYard thing and other stuff. But like I said, this is it's just the tip of the iceberg, and it's just a fun little hangout. So enjoy this. Whoever's watching this in the future, join us on Telegram, join us on Twitter. Look for us on Twitter. I'm Hexray Vision on Twitter. You're EcoBuilder.
Yeah, you'll find it.
EcoBuilder on Twitter, and you're Hexoteric.
Hexoteric on Twitter.
Hexoteric. You might want to spell that.
And
I don't know how to spell esoteric, let alone hexoteric.
It's yeah. And then Rogue Herbalist is another tag. So between the two, we'll narrow it down.
Yeah, and just follow the Hexagons and keep it cool. So,
but where you can find all of us in one shot is in the Telegram chat. That's t.me/Hex Food Growers.
Yeah. So again, thanks. Hope you enjoy this. We'll try to rip the audio and make a somewhat usable podcast for those that want to listen to this at work or while they're in the car. And
That sounds cool.
Yeah. Thanks again. We'll see you on the next one. So thanks. Bye.